People always look down their nose at podcasters. Never give you a chance because they think you took the easy way out. No one can imagine the willpower it takes to do this week to week. And if you want to support our questionable life choices, you can go to patreon.com/WassessCastProductions. For less than the cost of a sad hand job, you can get bonus episodes, early access, and exclusive content. Again, that's patreon.com/WassessCastProductions. You don't have to call us daddy. Let's not make it weird. Fucking child monster.
Welcome to the After Credits Cast, the only film podcast that struggles to decide which Charlize Theron film we will discuss. There's literally too many to pick, and they're all good. And you might get another one if the coronavirus pushes Wonder Woman back just a little bit. We'll find out here pretty soon. I'm your host, AJ Warnos, and I'm joined by Tyrion Mordors. Yep, using the real names because we're legit. Yep. You can follow us on many platforms, including Patreon, YouTube, Peepa, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, gonna harp down that a lot, and Podcast Addict. You can find us in a whole bunch of other places too. Just Google us, you will most certainly find us. You can also reach out to us on Tumblr, Twitter, or Facebook. Follow us there too. Love hearing back from you guys. And if you want to reach out to us directly to tell us the mistakes we've made, you can let us know at our email. Ryan was that email.
That email is, how the fuck did she do Monster and Wonder Woman? Who the hell thinks about... I mean, excuse me, that's evacstation@gmail.com.
For a minute, I thought you were talking about Charlize Theron. I'm like, wait a minute, what? And I'm like, oh wait, no, you mean Patty Jenkins. Brain does a little delay there. Well, let's just jump right on in. Our season of Ladies of Film continues with 2003's Monster, written and directed by one of our favorites, Patty Jenkins. Mm-hmm. If we're lucky, we'll get no delays, and we'll see another one of her movies very soon. Fingers crossed. This film made $58,469,000 at the box office, which is about 7 times what it cost. The cast includes Scott Wilson, Mark McCulley, Marco St. John, Pruitt Taylor Vince, Annie Corley, Lee Tergeson, Bruce Dern, Christina Ricci, and Furiosa herself, Charlize Theron. Brought that name up a couple times now, just hammering that point home.
We could have done that next, right? We could have done that next.
The film would go on to the film would go to win 30 awards, including.
Just fuck me, okay? Sorry.
No, I just love making jokes like that. The film would go on to win 30 awards, including Best Leading Actress Award from the Academy Awards, the Golden Globes, the SAG Awards, the ACC Awards, the Berlin International Film Festival, the Independent Spirit Awards, the Golden Derby, the Golden Schmoes, and the Satellite Awards, along with several critic associations. That's 2 in a row we got one of those, where it's just a long string of awards for one person.
Well, I mean, shit, she deserves it, man.
Indeed. There's also got an AFI Movie of the Year. That's all I've got for this one, so Ryan, I'll pass it to you for some fun facts.
Fun. Yes, fun facts. First off, Eileen Wuornos, a notoriously uncooperative person, gave writer and director Patty Jenkins access to hundreds of letters she had written and received in order to gain insight into Eileen's life. Now, when Wuornos used a storage facility like the one seen after she leaves Selby's house in the morning after they first met, although it's only shown before the killing spree, she actually kept some of her victims' belongings there. She sold others to pawn shops, which eventually led to her thumbprint identification and subsequent arrest. And finally, when Lee is first shown interacting with John, she shows him a photo of 2 young children, saying they're her children, and she needs some cash to get to them. According to Eileen Wuornos, The Selling of a Serial Killer from 1992, the real Wuornos actually used this method to lure her Johns into paying for sexual favors because her physical appearance was starting to degrade quickly due to her wild lifestyle. She showed photos of her adoptive sister's children, claiming that they were her own. Wuornos' grandparents legally adopted her as an infant after her biological mother abandoned her. It's fun.
Fun! Let's get some initial thoughts out of the way here. I had no idea what to expect going in. I'm not familiar with the story it's based on, and this was out when I was fairly young, so was a little off my radar as a kid. I mean, 2003, so I was 13. Yeah, I was busy with Yu-Gi-Oh! and such, so this was totally off my radar.
Yep.
But I can certainly see why it was considered Theron's winning performance. She delivers, and we'll get more of that here during the breakdown, but yeah, overall, pretty good stuff.
Definitely. Same with me. 13-year-old Ryan was absolutely not thinking about critically acclaimed movies and trying to expand the depth of my cinema experience. But this was, I think, a fantastic but hard as hell to watch movie. I can't say I had a good time with it, but I fully appreciate the level of cinematic mastery and dramatic portrayal from Charlize's performance here. I think it's a great movie. It's just not one I'm going to watch over and over and over again.
To be fair, we've had a few of those, so...
Yeah, we have. we definitely have.
All right. Well, I've got a synopsis for you, Ryan. Are you ready to roll with this?
I am ready.
All right. I had to do a little bit of rewriting due to some changes, but don't worry, we'll get there. The following film contains elements of rape, prostitution, and murder. Obviously, these are hard things to make jokes around, so bear with me for a minute. Lee tells about her childhood and how it sucks, and she wanted someone to come save her. She even to a point where she'd show all the boys all the milkshakes. It brought the boys to the yard, but they didn't bring their respect with them. That's the key right there. They grew up. She grew up to be a hooker who contemplated suicide until she met the useless, whiny piece of shit named Selby.
Wow.
Told you this was gonna get hard to write jokes around.
Dog.
Selby is a girl with a broken arm and what happens to be 2 broken legs because she contributes nothing to Lee's life other than being a burden. At first, Lee is put off by her, but she decides to stay around for a bit. A bit turns into a few months as they form a relationship of sorts. The first relationship that accepted Selby for who she was, a lesbian. You know, because Christian Daddy doesn't approve of this whole this kind of fornicating. Bible said something about not doing sword fighting in the bed, I think.
What?
Lee tries to save up money to help her and Selby get away. Things don't go well when a dude, she tries to hook up with gets a little too, rapey. She kills him in self-defense, returns to Selby, and insists they need to leave, but doesn't tell her the whole story. They leave and start a new life together for a few months. Lee tries to get a normal job, like a lawyer or president. She quickly finds out that one of those jobs she's vastly unqualified for. The other she can't have because women in America did it because we'd rather elect an orange piece of shit to do that. So she resorts back to hooking, only to still not be comfortable with the idea, so she ends up killing more men, becoming a serial killer, taking their cars, possessions, and trying to live the high life. Of course, doing so carries great risks, like Selby taking one of these cars, getting it stolen, like Selby stealing one of these cars, getting her prints on it, and running it off the road with witnesses around. Selby eventually figures out what is going on. Lee finally confesses to what's happening. They both agree that it's best they split up until the heat dies down, but the heat remains firmly up as Lee is caught at a bar not long later in a drunken stupor. The police use Selby to try to entrap Lee over the phone, but Lee sees what's happening, and as they would likely try to pin this on Selby too, she decides to take all the blame, allowing Selby to, live her life. Lee would die in prison, execution style, and Selby would, never speak to Lee again.
Boy.
But seriously though, she could have probably been president and would have been fine, but no, she's a woman. That's not allowed in America, apparently.
Yep. No, that's not allowed.
She is just as qualified as our current president. Just as qualified.
I don't know. She doesn't have a bunch of bankruptcies under her name, so.
Well, it's hard to have bankruptcies when you don't have money. Wait, isn't that the condition for a bankruptcy? I don't know how bankruptcies work.
Man, neither does Donald Trump. Anyway, we have some discussion questions here.
We do. First off, Ryan, did you at least like the movie?
Yes. Sorry, that took a while. I'm trying to, like, this movie had me questioning what it is to what I mean when I say I liked a movie. I definitely appreciate and respect what this movie is bringing to the table. Charlize's portrayal of this Midwestern, like, low end woman is spot on. I've seen this lady play Furiosa. I've seen her play fucking evil queen in Snow White. I've seen her play a Southern wife to Keanu Reeves as a lawyer. I've seen her do a lot of shit. This one was a really, really stellar performance because she firmly becomes this person in my mind. I absolutely appreciate, like, what this movie brings to the table. I did not finish the movie really excited or happy about it. Like, I can respect and appreciate it, but it wasn't a movie that was like, oh my god, I can't wait to talk about this. It was more just like, oh, fuck, that was sad.
I mean, again, Grave of Fireflies, Leaving Las Vegas, similar boat.
But here's the thing, though. I, like, with Grave of the Fireflies, and of course this was on me because I watched Grave of the Fireflies literally 10 minutes before we recorded, so I was just emotionally dead. But I was glad to talk about Grave of the Fireflies. I feel like this movie doesn't go to cinematic extremes that other movies go to in the name of realism. I think that's what this movie is really striving for, like, the feeling that this is what actually happened, and, like, these are as close to the real events as we're going to get the story for. And in the instance, in the pursuit of that, I don't know, maybe from a storytelling perspective, it didn't hit me as hard, but at the same time, I don't think that was ultimately its goal. So I think it succeeds at what it's trying to do, or at least from what I think it's trying to do.
See, but here's my argument, though.
All right.
I think that I have a problem with this film. Not a glaring flaw that needs to be condemned, but just something that sticks out that I wish that had been covered a bit better.
Let's hear it.
So this movie really romanticizes the life of Lee. Like, not like to the point where, like, oh, hey, it was all sunshine and roses, but it tries to make us empathize with her character. Not to say that she shouldn't have been empathized a little bit. I mean, obviously there were certain things that were out of her control, certain things that she got into that no one wants to be into. But as far as the story goes, though, she's still a serial killer who went out and murdered people who, frankly, a good number of them probably didn't deserve it, minus, like I said, the rapey guy. But there's an aspect of this, the whole criminal investigation side, so to speak. You know, like, when you read up the other fun facts, and when you see the documentary about her life, which I didn't see, but there are fun facts that discuss it in more detail. Basically what happens is there's a whole side of the story we didn't see involving, like you said, the storage unit and the various forms of evidence left behind, and just one of those things, like, I would have liked to have seen a B plot where you saw the criminal investigation team on their trail. Not like a huge amount, but enough to give you the sense that there's urgency in where they need to go and what they need to do. That the time together isn't super limited because they are being pursued. It feels like there's a very lackadaisical approach to coming after them, and that their life is basically fine for the most part, but things get out of control very quickly at the end. And I think it was always out of control the entire way through, and just not presenting that in that particular way makes it feel a little unreal to me.
I feel where you're coming from, but my counter argument to that is I think the movie's chief aim is to put you in Eileen's
Oh,
perspective.
absolutely.
And
It
it's
absolutely
and it's
is.
quite but I think it's quite possible that from Eileen's perspective, she felt it was this lackadaisical. I mean, she had this idea that she was killing all of these people and essentially getting away with it scot-free because she was smart enough not to leave like various bits of evidence, or at least she thought she was, and she was keeping the clippings of the murders just to kind of like starting out to make sure that she wasn't being followed, but then they were trophies because she started showing them to Shelby and say, look, they don't fucking have anything. I'm good enough at this murder bit that they can't catch me, so I've got it under control. I do think that what you're saying is right, in that in reality, it was not as under control as she thought it was. But I think the movie's aim is to get you in Eileen's point of view, and for a good portion of her point of view, she thought it was completely under control.
Oh, absolutely.
That's why.
Absolutely. This movie is framed in a way where it's more of a love story than it is a true crime story. You still have a bit of both, but its focus is definitely on the relationship between Selby and Lee, and that's both a good thing and a bad thing. I think it plays. I think it's a very strong approach because it definitely hits that nail on the head. But, and I'll get into more reasons why I don't necessarily think it works 100% on its own, but we'll get to it in a minute. But I think that the criminal investigation side of things would have definitely jazzed it up a little bit, just to, like I said, give that urgency and let the audience know that, hey, while everything seems like it's sunshine and roses over here, it's not over here. So, and it would have added the runtime a little bit, but I don't think this movie was all that long, so you probably could have done it and gotten away with it pretty easily, I think, but I don't know. This is me armchair directing years later, so what do I know? But it's something I would have definitely been interested in seeing. So maybe I'll check out the documentary at some point. Not a guarantee. I'm so behind on other shit that I probably won't. But it is something I would have appreciated seeing a bit of.
I feel that.
Ryan, let's talk about lead performances, or I guess performances from Theron and Ricci. Good, bad, what works, what doesn't? How do you feel?
I think, like I mentioned it earlier, but Charlize Theron's just a fucking masterful actress. Oh my god. I think she fully embodied Lee's character, definitely. And I think that Christina Ricci's portrayal of Shelby definitely felt like Midwestern teen that was kind of aimless and had a lot of feelings but didn't really know what to do with them. And stuck in shitty situations with her family life and just good old Midwestern homophobia and racism just right there in her face.
No Dylan and butts, you can't do it.
Yeah. So I think the portrayals were very, very well done. They felt like believable characters to me. Christina Ricci felt very, very young in comparison to Charlize Theron's portrayal of Lee. So I think the age difference was definitely played up well. And I think like especially Ricci's portrayal of like the bratty bits of Selby after a while, which like when the honeymoon phase kind of ends and she's just like, the fuck good are you for? And like there was a part where she's hanging out with the other girls from the bar and you're like, is she trying to hook up with the younger lesbian and ditch Eileen right now? Is that what's happening? But I don't know. I tangented off. I jumped off on a tangent. I think their portrayals were really, really well done.
Yep. I'm going to ride that tangent, actually. So, Ryan, why didn't Selby ever look for work? Even with the cast off, nothing. What the hell? What was going on there?
I think she got used to being taken care of by Lee, I think also that she was very young. Like, how old was Selby supposed to be? Because she felt super duper young to me.
Again, I'm going to go with the rule of thumb. If they're drinking in a bar, they're probably 21 or at least 18.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so somewhere 18 to 21, because she felt super duper young.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
So I think there was a large part of her that still hadn't really grown up. And, like, she was getting into an adult situation and kind of claiming that she could handle it. And she kept kind of displaying that she couldn't. So I don't know, man. I think it was a combination of just her being really young and her being used to being taken care of. So, like, really not maturing to the point where she could carry equal weight in the relationship.
And Lee couldn't necessarily, tell her to get a job because that would make her, that probably had the anxiety of, oh, if I do that, Sylvie will be mad and leave me. So I could see why that would happen. It's kind of a shame it happens the way it does, but yeah,
it's tragic the way it all falls out.
Yep. Well, I mean, I'm of the mindset, Ryan, that in a relationship, both parties have to carry their share and do their bit to make the whole thing work. So, it just kind of irks me a little bit to see Selby just sort of shitting around, doing fuck all, and Lee's committing crimes and getting in trouble because of all of it. Mm-hmm. What do you think about Selby's family and how they ultimately pushed her into Lee's arms in the first place?
Oh God, Sylvie's Army's a piece of shit.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's understandably bad though. Like, I have met Midwestern families just like this. So in terms of realistic portrayals, yes, 100%. And you could the thing that I loved that was ultimately tragic is this, like, the meeting with Selby and her aunt in the diner before they move, where she's like, I just wanted to let you know I'm doing okay. We're getting ready to relocate in a little bit, so I just want you to tell my family that I'm okay and that I'm going to be leaving. And you have the aunt trying to give her wisdom, but also just constantly dipping into that Midwestern good Christian home bullshit. So it's just like, but the message that she's trying to give to her with the whole, you're romanticizing this relationship with this lady, but ultimately she's using you, and people make bad choices in life, and we see you making these choices, and we don't want you to do that. Like, that's real wisdom that she was trying to give her niece, but it was mired with Midwestern bullshit. And so it was hard to really get across. And I felt that was very realistic for the time and the setting. So I think there's some love, probably not a lot, but there's some love in Selby's family. It's just in the midst of all this horrible stuff that it's lost on Selby. And so she gets it in the place where she's getting it the clearest, which is Lee.
Now, to be clear for those listening, not every Midwestern family is horrible. There are plenty of good Midwestern families out there. Ryan,
There are plenty. You are correct.
Ryan, I want to dive into this a little deeper, but if you don't want to, you don't have to.
Let's go. No, let's go. Let's go.
What are your thoughts regarding the evidence that typical homophobic Christians like to bring up, and the whole homosexual relationships in general? Like, what is your take on that situation?
Well, in terms when you say evidence brought up,
when they quote the Bible saying, "Oh, you can't do this because the Bible says this," and it's like, well, okay, but why are you using that as a case for why these two can't be together, kind of thing?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's rooted in fear of stuff that you don't understand, and a lot of people like to lean on any evidence that they can get that says, well, that thing that's weird to me that I don't understand is bad, so I should just stay away from it, and you should stay away from it too, and if you don't, you're going to hell. I think ultimately, like, just like the arguments against homosexual people and just like other ways of loving people are ultimately wrong-minded and bigoted because it's rooted in a reluctance to understand something that's different from you, a reluctance to understand new things, rather than trying to accept Selby for who she is and trying to work with her to understand what she's feeling and understanding the lifestyle that she has and just the person that she is. They're trying to force her to change into something that they are more familiar with for their own comfort. They dress it up as saying you have to be this way because this is the way the world works, but ultimately they want her to be this way because they know how to deal with that, and they don't know how to deal with who she is right now. And you can't force somebody to change because you're comfortable. If you really love them, you should try to meet them where they are. Say, this is you, let me understand who you are. I love you for you, and if you are different than me, then I will just work to understand that. And that's what family is. That's it.
See, Ryan, I live every day thinking about my future children, thinking to myself, man, I hope I don't end up like one of these people who is all mad that their kids are not turning out the way they want to. But at the same time, I'm like, do I want my kids to get into football and me not understanding a damn thing about football? I don't know.
But you know what? If I have hope for you. I know you. If your kid loves something that you don't know a thing about, you are going to try your damnedest to get into it for your kids.
And if I can't do it, the wife certainly will.
Yep. But you'll be there with the sign that you don't understand what the fuck it's saying, but you'll be there to show support because you love your kid.
What's a touchdown, and why would I want to do that?
They kicked it through the giant fork.
Yeah, yes. Dinner time.
Oh my god.
I did not mean for that to turn into a joke about that, but that was good timing still. No, I am definitely there with that, all that. Ryan, I am not familiar with the Bible at all. I just have one final question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that could charitably, and I emphasize the word charity, like full on, like you have to fucking stretch the limits, is there anything in the Bible that even can be construed as evidence against homosexuality?
Yes, but there's also rules in the Bible about touching the skin of a dead pig making you unclean, and wearing and eating meat on a Friday being worthy of sending someone to hell, and having to stone someone to death by law because they planted two different crops next to each other in the garden. There's a lot of antiquated shit in there. There's a lot of it in there. I think the people that I'm gonna send you. I'm actually, like, after this, I'm gonna send you a clip. It's one of my favorite clips ever. But it tackles that. It tackles that that exact thing. But the point I'm trying to make is that the things in the Bible that I believe people should take away are the concepts of love and understanding and forgiveness and peace. And there's so much of that in the Bible. There's also a lot of other shit about a lot of other laws that were written thousands of years ago when we were less evolved people. And that's maybe not something we latch on to. Maybe.
To add to that, too, there's a fun quote I want to bring from Simpsons. I wonder if it relates to your clip you want to show me, but there's a fun quote from Remember Lovejoy where I think it was either Marge or Lisa asks him about stuff that they can or can't do, and his response is, well, Marge, have you actually read this thing? Technically, we're not allowed to use the bathroom.
I love it. I love it. It's very concise to where I was going with it. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's get back to this film here. We got a little sidetracked, but it's fine. Ryan, do you condone what Lee did for her first killing?
Absolutely. 100% kill that guy.
Yep. I think we can officially put it as a slogan of the show. It's okay to kill your rapist.
Kill your rapist.
Yep.
Just kill him.
Yep. In fact, you can do it while he's trying to and save us all the trouble. You know, don't let him do it. Don't let him get too far. But if he's already done it, just fucking stab him dead.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna go to jail for the same amount of time as an attempted murder, you might as well just fucking murder him.
Attempted murder? Really? Do they give a prize for attempted chemistry?
Do they give a prize for attempted chemistry?
Sorry, that you said it and it just triggered it.
I surely did. I completely understand.
Sideshow Bob's so good. Anyway, moving on. Let's see. Why did Lee aim for such high level jobs right off the bat? And why not? Why give up and go back to hooking so quickly?
Well, I do believe I don't think it was. Oh, I think like for the movie it felt quick, but I want to believe that there was a good amount of time where she was actually giving it an honest try. I think her being so out of kind of on the outskirts of society that she really didn't know how that shit worked was definitely apparent. It's just like, so you have no experience and like no degree, none of any of these things, and you want to be a lawyer. Okay, sure. So I think it's because I mean I don't think it was explicitly said, but I'm pretty sure she dropped out of school.
Yeah, probably.
So I mean, yeah, there was a lot of shit that she was missing there. There was a lot of shit that she was missing there, and it makes sense that she just kind of didn't have a handle on it and just didn't know what the fuck was going on. Now, on the other side of that coin, though, seriously, fuck that lawyer who decided to make fun of her to her face because she was out there actually trying. Like, fucking empathy, dude. What the hell? Like, Mr. Well, like, you can't spend your life on Daytona Beach having a big grand old party and then walk out one day and expect to get what everybody else worked for. I'm like, this guy is an asshole.
But
this
Ryan, I make over $100,000 a year. You're telling me I've got to empathize with those who make less?
Yes. Is that person a human being? You should probably empathize.
I don't know. I mean, if they make less money than me, they might not be a human being.
Yeah, because people who make less money aren't human? Of course not. They're only the ones getting us through this crisis right now.
Ryan, anyway. I can't hear your logic over the money I'm talking to.
Jesus Christ. Oh, man. But yeah, I feel like she was actually trying for a while. And, like, because of the pacing of the movie, it made sense that, you know, it had to go a bit faster before she eventually got to attempting to hook, and then eventually just, oh, well, you know, I could just kill people.
All right, but let me back things up a little bit. So I was not too far along on a job hunt myself. And while I had the advantage of having an education and having experience, let's assume I didn't. My internal logic would tell me, okay, what are the things I'm good at, and what are the things I like? Those are the kind of jobs you look for. And considering that she and Sales spend a lot of time, like, in a bar, my first thought is, why not be someone who works in a bar? Bartending doesn't require as much education. You can learn the job pretty easily. And tips are really good. You can make a pretty honest living off of it. And you wouldn't have to go very far. You live pretty close to the bar you frequent quite a bit.
That makes sense. I'm not entirely certain why she didn't think of that, because that's a pretty good idea. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know why she didn't think of that.
Now, the argument, obviously, against it would just be like, oh, well, you know, she had some kind of she's going through trauma, she's going through all this stuff, and she's probably not thinking clearly, and that's fine. I'm just saying, for the sake of everyone in the room, like, that it would have been, if I were in her shoes, that would have been the first step I would have gone to. It's like, okay, well, we'll do this first and build up from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think she also was shooting high. She had this new lease on life. Like, at this point, like, she had some money. She had the girl that she thought might love her. She was like, you know what? I'm not gonna be hooker anymore. I'm gonna do, like, we're gonna do it up royal. We're gonna do it up royal. I'm gonna get a for real job that pays great, and we're gonna have a house and pick a fence and all that good shit. We're just gonna go up and get that. And so yeah, she was aiming high.
Mm-hmm.
She was aiming high. I don't think she was being realistic in terms of what she wanted to do, and that if she had set her sights a little more practically, like you were saying, she might have been able to get there. But that's an adequate point of her character, though, because while she is determined, and while she's been dealt a very harsh hand in life, she did not make great decisions. There were many decisions that she should have not made, and she made them anyway.
From a very young age to the end of it, yep.
Right, so that's just one of those poor decisions that she made. She could have aimed for a more practical job, probably found something, got the steady work that she was looking for, and then, like, built up her life from that. But she didn't do that.
And of course, Selby could have helped out too. That's a whole other conversation. Anyway.
Of course, Selby could have fucking worked.
Selby, get up your fat ass. Jesus. What else we got here? Do you think Selby ever really loved Lee? Or do you think it was more of an infatuation? And then on the flip side, did Lee really love Selby? Or was it all delusion?
I do think Lee... Oof, damn. Okay. I think ultimately Lee loved Selby. And the reason why, I believe it definitely started out as kind of an infatuation / delusion, because she had finally found somebody that looked at her the way she wanted to be looked at. Because in her mind, she was beautiful, and she was just waiting for somebody to discover her, and all this, that, and the other. And then Selby came along and just thought she was fucking pure distilled moonlight, just appeared right in front of her. So she was definitely getting that out of it. But then as the movie goes on, and she eventually has to, like, start telling her things, she starts sharing her vulnerabilities with her. And as she sees that Selby is sticking around, I think Lee develops an actual love for her, because she starts talking about how she loved, like, one of the things she loves about Selby is that she looks at the world the way she used to before she realized that the world was all shit. And she's like, she wanted to preserve that as long as she could. I think she was learning deeper things about Selby and falling in love with those things, which is why I think that was actual love, at least towards the end. I mean, to the point where she gave up her own life to make sure that Selby was okay, and didn't go down with her. Now, whether or not Selby loved Lee, I don't know. I think Selby was very, very young. I think Selby went through very traumatic experiences with Lee and was very close to Lee. But I'm not entirely certain if she was... You ever do that thing where you're about to say something and then you like fact check what you were about to say, and you're just like, oh, maybe not that. I just did that. Because I was about to say, I don't know if Selby was mature enough to actually be in love with Lee, but I don't know if maturity actually has anything to do with love. Does it? What do you think on that?
I think you can love at any age and any level of maturity, but whether or not you understand it requires maturity. I think that's the key thing. And there's an argument to be made that maybe even Lee didn't have maturity because there's a psychological phenomenon that I found out about years ago that I find very interesting. Those who get addicted to drugs and alcohol at young ages tend to mentally be stuck at the ages when they first started drinking and doing drugs. So if you were to get hooked on, say, meth at the age of 13, and God forbid if you did, because I feel bad for you, you will mentally always have the capacity and the maturity of a 13-year-old. And that'll carry on with you as long as you're still addicted and you never really grow from it. And I think the same thing could be said with what happens with Lee here, because we've already talked about how unrealistic her ambitions were, going for lawyers and presidents and all that stuff. It's the kind of attitude you expect someone really young and not understanding how the world works to kind of have. And I think that it shows that neither of them were mature enough to handle what was going on here. Both of them made rash decisions and didn't fully understand what they were getting into. Was it love? Maybe, but I don't think either one of them understood it enough to really properly make the most use of it.
I like that. I like that take. I still think Lee was more in love with Selby than Selby was in love with Lee.
Oh no, I love you more. I'm gonna prove it. I'm going to jail.
I'm gonna die. It's fine. You can point me out in court, and I will be okay with this.
Speaking of crimes and legalization, Ryan, should sex work be legalized and or decriminalized? Why or why not?
Oh boy, that's a question. Hey!
Hey!
Ooh, shit.
I think I know where I fall on this one.
Where do you fall on this one?
It's gonna sound weird, but I think it should be decriminalized. And here is why. People are gonna have sex no matter what. And there are people out there who like sex enough they want to do it all the time. And if they're good at it, why not charge for it? The argument is more or less, can you make it safe? And if you legalize it in a way where you can regulate it and have actual people taking care of them, to care for people who are in this profession, to make sure they get treated, they get looked at, and are not beaten to crap by pimps and shit and such, I think you could make it work and make it legal and safe for both the people involved and the people who are the patrons, basically. The way it is now, where it's only legal in like a city and other countries, yeah, no, you're not gonna get that kind of safety or guarantee of quality of life, and it's not good for those people. And you can make the argument that maybe they should have chosen another profession, but again, if it's something you're good at and it's something you like, why are we arguing against it?
Okay. I haven't thought about this question before, and I think a lot of my hesitance comes from the whole like decency angle that I'm getting hung up on, but I don't think that's any of my business. I think the crux of the argument is actually what you're bringing up, and how do you make it safe? Because you're seeing in movies like this and like Leaving Las Vegas how this is an extremely dangerous line of work for women, because there's nobody regulating it. It's just you and some guy that's paying you money, and for some reason the act of paying you money equates in their head like they can treat you like less of a human being, or that they can do whatever they want to you and it doesn't matter because you're just a whore. So if there was a way to regulate it in like to keeping it safe for the people who practice it, and like the workers, the sex workers, then I would not be mad at it. I would not be mad at it at all. Because like my problem with it, the more I'm coming to learn about it, my problem with it is the lack of safety for the people involved.
Look at us being progressive thinkers.
I'm sorry, it took me a minute to parse it. I
It's a
hadn't really
weird
thought
question.
about it.
It's a weird question. It's not something you get asked to talk about much because it's not a topic most people want to discuss, and I understand it. I understand it. No one wants to talk about, hey, should we just let prostitutes on the streets? And it's like, well, no, we should give them a building where they can safely conduct their work under proper regulation. I think that's a fair argument. Switching gears one last time for the final question, Ryan. We haven't done a true crime story or anything based on a true story in our movies so far. I guess technically there was a couple of those Ghibli films, but I don't know. I guess if they're animated, you can kind of give them the wiggle room.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think, though? Should we do more of these? And do you have any recommendations?
Man, I... Wait, wasn't the Room based on a true story?
Oh, it might have been. Let me double check. I'm gonna Google search. Real quick.
Well. While you do that, I'll go on. But I think I personally tend to stray towards the fantastical because it leaves everything in a hypothetical space, and it plays with ideas and concepts that you can kind of shake around and really like see how they fit in your mind, and then you can leave them in that hypothetical space. You can walk away from it and be like, man, that was messed up, but it's okay because it's over there and I'm in the real world now. Movies like this are harder to put away because they happened, or because they're really showing a very ugly side of real life, and how there are a multitude of things that can go wrong and a multitude of choices you can pick that lead you down a really bad path in life. So watching these movies, while they're really good, they're good for a watch every now and again. It's hard, man. It's hard. It's not something that I enjoy delving into. I could see doing it every now and again, but I don't know if I want to do like a whole season on true crime stuff. It's just gonna be real depressed.
Well, two things I want to bring up. First off, Room is actually based on a novel, so not a true story.
Okay.
It's based on a true book. It's a book that's
real. A book that's true. It's a real book. Sorry, keep going.
The other thing too is that's fair for true crimes, but I think for true stories, it's not as cut and dry. There's the Mr. Rogers movie with Tom Hanks that could be pretty good.
Oh yeah,
I'd love to see that. There are plenty of those sports movies where hey, it's the kids that are from the underdog team and they win out anyway for the season. There's a few of those that could work. I don't think true stories by themselves are all bad, but I do think you're right. True crime probably shouldn't be a full season unless we're like desperate for ideas.
That's fair. You know what? That's fair. Like there are true life stories that aren't just about how life is miserable for some people. So I would be down for doing more of those. If I'm gonna throw an idea at you, but there's a movie called Professor Marsden and the Wonder Woman.
Oh, you brought that up before, yeah.
Yeah, and it tells the real life story of the creator of the Wonder Woman comic, and it delves into some real interesting stuff, and there's a lot of very interesting lore and psychology that was explored through Wonder Woman, the comic, in the early days of its release. So if we're gonna do more of these, I would strongly recommend that be one of the first on the list, because that's really, really good.
It will certainly be on the short list. I think that, and even the Mr. Rogers one, because I'm not a huge...
Oh yeah, definitely the Mr. Rogers one.
Like I wasn't a big follower of Mr. Rogers, but I do respect what the guy did. Good stuff. So yeah, that's all I have for questions here, Ryan. Anything else you want to add before we move on?
No, I mean, like I said, this is a great movie. It was just hard to watch. I think talking through it kind of helped me through it more, which is really nice. But I watched this while I was at work today. Not the best decision. You want to talk about poor life decisions? That was one of them. Was one of them today. So.
Yeah, but you know what is not a poor life decision? Going to patreon.com/Guest Productions. You can support our show for only $1 a month if you want to do that. It's fine. You can get the bonus episodes, exclusive content, all the good stuff. You can also reach out to us directly on Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter to tell us what true story films you want us to see. Do you want us to see that movie about the Chernobyl? Do you want us to do a movie on Abe Lincoln? There's actually a good movie by I don't think it was Steven Spielberg who directed it, but it was
with Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
Yes, that was really good.
That was really good. I'd be down to check that out again. But it's got a sad ending, but you know it's coming, so it's like everything else building up to it's still really good.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, tangent.
Tommy Lee Jones is in it. Okay, keep going.
T.J. Jones is in there. Or T.L. Jones. T.L. Jones.
T.L. Jones, Jesus.
T.L.J. He's a man. Anyway, you can reach out to us directly by Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook for your recommendations, as well as an email. Ryan, what is that email?
That email is Selby needs to get a fucking job, dog. I'm sorry. That is evacstation@gmail.com.
Selby, if you are out there, don't feel attacked. We think everyone should get a job. But in this economy, with this virus, it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. Mm-hmm. So, while you're looking for jobs, listen to our show. Keep you busy. Let's go on to the final segment. It's going to be the review, where we talk about the film, ranking it from platinum to shit and all the colors in between. Ryan, where on earth would you rank this movie?
So, I think this is a very powerful movie. I think in the aims of what the movie is trying to do, it definitely succeeds. I think in the name of realism and accurate portrayal of the people involved, I think it definitely knocks that out of the park. I think as a movie, it was powerful but hard to watch. And I think there are movies that I've enjoyed, especially like even in this season, that tackle difficult subject matter, but also made it really interesting from a dramatic and a cinema point of view.
Yeah.
A cinematic. Thank you. That's exactly the word I was looking for. A cinematic point of view. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually give this a gold. I don't want to give it a platinum because I don't think it was on the level of Black Swan and Tarantino, but I think I still think it's a fantastic movie. I think it's a very, very sad movie, but there's definitely a lot to be gleaned from the movie, so I would definitely recommend giving it your time.
What, Ryan? You tell me Patty Jenkins didn't crank a platinum out of the park? No,
it was definitely good, man. I'll give her all the praise.
No, I agree. I don't think this is platinum level. I think, like I said before, it's missing elements that I would have liked to have seen, and I think that, it may not have been what the movie was shooting for. I get that, but I do think there's elements of it missing still. Not necessarily what my suggestions were, but just something's not quite sitting right with me to say everyone needs to see this.
Yeah.
Which is what a platinum is. Platinum is everyone we know is recommended to see this, no matter what. Drop what you're doing now and go watch it. I would not recommend that for this. I would say, if you're interested in true crime, if you're interested in this kind of story, yeah, give it a look. But if you're not, this probably isn't going to do it for you. But for what it is and what it does, it's excellently put together, excellently acted. Even through the makeup that Charlize Theron's wearing, I could still see her emote very well, which is tough to do because that was some heavy makeup she was wearing. Overall, I would say, yeah, probably a gold, a good standard. Highly recommend. We'll see if this trend continues with future films we do. Because I think, what do we have next on our list here on the schedule? We got Gone Girl next.
Hey, Gone Girl.
That's one I've seen, and I'm actually super hyped to check it out again. It was a fun time the first time I watched it. I don't know how I'm going to rank that one. I have a feeling I know what it's going to be, but I don't want to commit to it yet. But we'll see. We'll find out.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that again. That's going to be very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Gotta see if that twist holds up after a repeat viewing. But anyway, thank you for listening for this season. We're doing some good stuff here. We'll see you for the rest of the season. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you after the credits.
Bye.